During major vascular surgery, systemic blood pressure safeguards the spinal cord. When it drops unexpectedly, the nervous system enters a state of immediate crisis. Consider the case of a 62-year-old man undergoing an extensive thoracoabdominal aortic repair. At hour 0, following a period of intraoperative hypotension, the patient regains consciousness and immediately reports a sharp, severe pain localized between the shoulder blades. Within hours, the clinical picture stabilizes into a catastrophic state. He presents with complete bilateral leg paralysis, unable to generate any motor output in his lower extremities. This motor collapse is accompanied by acute autonomic failure, manifested as early urinary retention. Sensory testing reveals a dense deficit. He has lost all perception of pain and temperature, starting at the T8 dermatome and extending to his toes. The patient is now paralyzed, unable to void his bladder, and numb to noxious stimuli from the mid-chest down. Analytical. This is not a random collection of surgical side effects. It is a highly specific, patterned injury that requires us to map the precise anatomical source of the failure. Despite the severe paralysis and loss of pain sensation, a single physical exam finding contradicts the logic of a total cord injury. When the clinician applies a tuning fork to the patient's feet or moves his joints to test position, the patient's perception is perfect. His vibration and joint position sense are completely intact. This creates a dissociated sensory loss, a state where one sensory highway is obliterated while another remains functional. How can a single vascular injury paralyze both legs and erase the feeling of a needle stick, yet leave the subtle sensation of a vibrating tuning fork entirely untouched? The answer is found in the specific vascular distribution of the anterior spinal artery. Diagnosing this syndrome requires shifting our focus away from the obvious deficits to identify what is uniquely spared. This diagnostic equation allows us to organize the clinical findings. We take component A, sudden back pain and a vascular risk factor like aortic surgery, and add component B, the immediate bilateral cord deficits. When these variables align, we must treat the case as acute anterior cord ischemia until proven otherwise. To understand why the legs have failed, we must look at the cord's cross-sectional anatomy. The anterior spinal artery provides the blood supply for the anterior 2/3 of the spinal cord. In this territory, the motor systems are concentrated. The ischemia first strikes the anterior horn cells, which are located exactly at the level of the infarct. The death of these neurons results in localized lower motor neuron signs, specifically at the injured segment. Simultaneously, the injury destroys the lateral corticospinal tracts. Because these tracts carry motor commands from the brain downward, their destruction causes bilateral upper motor neuron weakness everywhere below the level of the lesion. During the acute phase of this injury, a phenomenon called spinal shock often occurs. The destruction of these two motor systems, the local horn cells and the descending tracts, perfectly explains why the patient can no longer move his legs. We now turn to the sensory exam, specifically the dense loss of pain and temperature perception. These sensations are carried by the spinothalamic fibers. Note how they enter the cord, cross the midline almost immediately, and then ascend. They travel upward within the anterolateral funiculus. This pathway sits entirely within the anterior 2/3 of the cord, placing it directly in the ischemic zone. This anatomical alignment results in the bilateral loss of pain and temperature sensation below the lesion that we observed in our patient. However, the patient's ability to sense vibration remains. Vibration and joint position are handled by the dorsal columns, located at the back of the cord. This posterior third is not dependent on the anterior spinal artery. Instead, redundant posterior spinal arteries shield these pathways from an anterior stroke. When we combine these lost and spared regions, we arrive at the master map of the syndrome. One artery fails, devastating the anterior motor and sensory tracts, but the posterior dorsal columns survive as an intact thread of function. While the cross-sectional damage is consistent, the presentation changes depending on where the infarct occurs vertically along the spine. A high cervical infarct is most severe, leading to quadriparesis and respiratory failure. A thoracic infarct results in paraparesis, with a sensory level on the torso. Lower down, a lumbar infarct produces lower motor neuron signs, while a conus infarct triggers early sphincter symptoms. Regardless of the level, the underlying vascular triggers, such as aortic dissection or severe hypotension, remain the same. We can distill this entire pathophysiology into a single clinical formula. Anterior Spinal Artery Syndrome equals weakness plus pain and temperature loss, minus dorsal column loss. Applying this formula allows a clinician to immediately filter the findings of a complex spinal injury into a clear anatomical diagnosis. Let's test this logic with a rapid-fire drill. We need to assign each finding to its vascular territory. Sudden back pain, bilateral leg weakness, and loss of pinprick perception are all products of the compromised ASA territory. Preserved joint position sense points directly to the healthy posterior columns. Unilateral facial weakness is a distractor. It is a cranial nerve finding that cannot be explained by this spinal cord lesion. Now consider this final scenario. A patient develops paraplegia and loss of pain temperature sensation after a vascular repair, but vibration and proprioception are preserved. Which specific anatomical structure is most likely spared in this case? The correct anatomical answer in this case is the fasciculus gracilis. As part of the dorsal column system, the fasciculus gracilis is fed by the posterior circulation, allowing it to survive the anterior ischemic event. In acute neurology, the focus isn't just on what is broken. True localization is found in the relationship between massive loss and what remains intact.